Pokemon collecting and Pokemon collectors are so back. The hobby is exploding in popularity and has garnered the attention of new and old fans. Led by nostalgia, people are reliving their childhoods by collecting new rare cards that are priced at the thousands. However, products are extremely scarce and riddled with market instability. Therefore, it is so over. Currently, people are raiding Costco as we speak for as much product as they can get their hands on. This behavior isn't normal. The children's card game known as Pokemon is dominated by scalpers, people who just resell things for a profit, and just people pricing out kids with adult money. Big dollars, big money. This creates an inflated collector's market that hoses all the people that are just trying to get by and enjoy the hobby. And unfortunately, it might be cutting out some of their target audience as well. This will inevitably stagnate growth for the game, but before we get into any of that, let me take you to the start. The video game was developed by Game Freak and launched in 1996 in Japan and 1998 in America. Pokemon blew up because of the Game Boy and its incredible popularity. However, it came out towards the end of that console's lifespan, which kind of worked in its favor because everybody had that console, making the game super accessible. Additionally, because Pokemon was the first creature collection game to hit the Western markets, its popularity and success skyrocketed. In Japan, where creature collection games like Pokemon already existed, it set itself apart by making the sprites simple and cute for wide appeal. The game also integrated a social aspect where kids could trade Pokemon from both red and blue versions. Additionally, this requires you to make friends or get along with your little brother so you could get like a cool Pokemon from his specific version of the game. The practice of the collecting as an inherent aspect of that game led to its next evolution, the trading card game. Trading card games were still developing and gaining popularity in their small niches of like nerd and board gamers. Spearheaded by Magic the Gathering in 1993, this new format of collecting cards in order to build decks and battle your friends proved it was compelling by the high demand from gamers. A Japanese company named Creatures Inc. created the card game and released it only 8 months after making the video game in '96. Immediately, they underestimated the demand. The Japanese market consumed over 87 million cards within 6 months, and this was before the anime had even come out. As early as the first release of the trading card game in America, the stakes were plagued with shortages and fierce competition between collectors to grab available products. As if shortages and competitions weren't enough, the tagline, "Gotta catch 'em all," was a significant incentive to buy packs and collect more cards. It is first and foremost a children's collectible card game, although prize pool attract adults. What set this game apart from Magic at the time was its incorporation of a junior division. This system encouraged children to interact with the game that they collected. Eventually, after all this happened, the markets evened out and the hype kind of died down. Pokemon TCG remained successful, but was primarily a hobby for children, die-hard fans, and competitive trading card players. The game had just released and entered a state of hibernation. The insanity and anticipation for every release just wasn't there where it once was. However, it doesn't mean the game was unsuccessful. New generations of children were constantly discovering the game, die-hard fans continued to play, and collectors kept collecting. However, during this time, another trading card game tried to enter the market. This game was Yu-Gi-Oh! Offering an alternative to Pokemon, which was a baby game made for big babies. Yu-Gi-Oh! Alternatively was a super cool teen game made for teens, and it had blue eyes and dark magicians and dark magician girls. Besides that, at this time, the growing appeal from those who are younger constantly drove adolescents away from Pokemon, which inherently saw the popularity of Yu-Gi-Oh! At this point though, I must emphasize, the game put up respectable numbers and established itself still as a major player in the greater TCG market. While at this time, the game experienced a lot of criticisms, it was important to note the video game sold better because the DS was also a major hit. These iterations of video games introduced another generation of kids to Pokemon. This would be around the time where I personally would start playing these games, and while at first it took me a while to enjoy them, by the time Black and White rolled around, I was fully committed. This would be the time I learned about the trading card game, played my older brother's hand-me-downs, and would find myself revisiting my old copy of Pokemon Platinum. As time continued, I too grew up, stopped playing the card game, and primarily interacted with the video games, which is similar story for most. From that point forward though, Pokemon remained steady and nothing crazy happened until 2016 would mark a really strange point. It was the year where Pokemon Go released and people who had never interacted with a Pikachu in their lives started to download and play this game. Even when the game was just a collectathon, people loved it and were constantly just going outside, looking for nests and trying to catch them all. Again, this would be a moment where the Pokemon IP transcended. It went from a children's video game to a worldwide phenomenon. It was bigger than Mr. Worldwide at his peak. People of all ages went outside. The nostalgia bait was so hard that the aunties and unks were trying to re-experience the thrill of catching the original 151 Pokemon all over again. Pokemon established itself as one of the world's most iconic IPs, to the point where now, if I ask my mom what a Pikachu is, she'll be able to accurately, precisely describe that yellow rat. It went as far as being referenced in the United States presidential election. Pokemon had regained almost all of its momentum it once lost. It was reflected in both game sales and trading card sales. This directly had an effect on the video games, with people going back and playing the latest generation of games. Gen 6 of the video games had sold the same amount as both Gen 4 and 5 combined. At the same time, the recent sudden popularity saw a massive resurgence in card sales. This was directly evident by the sudden scarcity of cards, as hordes of people started to return to collecting. Eventually the prices would stabilize again, but it started to show people the potential value of old cards. This was the first modern wave of Pokemania since the late 90s. The pandemic hit, and it hit hard. While the pandemic was a significant world event, it was also a significant moment for collectibles, as COVID stimulated a plethora of online businesses and provided crazy new revenue streams. At this point, Pokemon YouTubers and collection channels started to gain more traction than ever because more people were able to consume so much more content. Enter the #1 hype train scam generator, Logan Paul. While known for scams and questionable ethics, he also bought into the hobby around this time. A man with too much money decided it's time to relive my childhood by purchasing a PSA 10 first edition Charizard for $150,000. For those of you that don't know, Charizard in the Pokemon TCG market is always the most desirable Pokemon, next to Umbreon, Pikachu, and Mewtwo. In even more layman's terms, it is basically gold. Basically gold. It is gold. It's cardboard gold. There's no safer asset, or let me put massive quotation marks around asset first, in the Pokemon market than buying a Charizard. There's no... Nothing compares. What does this all mean? Well, let's just say, finding one of the first ever prints of the first ever Pokemon set that sold like crazy in perfect condition is incredibly rare. This made headlines. PokeBros across the world united as their hobby finally got the attention they wanted, until it was so poke over. People rushed to the game once again, quote unquote, reliving the nostalgia they had for the little monsters, buying cards, opening packs, and once that stimmy hit, doing it all over again. The secondary market exploded. On top of this, there were logistics nightmares that were ever present due to the pandemic, causing a massive scalper epidemic. The artificial inflation of everything led to crazy moments where the children's game became so hard to get. I mean, the gamers weren't gaming anyway, so it didn't really damage the organized play, but think of the children. 2021 marked the 25th anniversary of Pokemon, and it was still a child's worst nightmare. More money kept being dumped into the hobby. Logan Paul regraded his Charizard with a more prestigious grading company, and it comes back at 10 and transforms that singular $150,000 card to a $1 million card. Then Logan Paul proceeds to make a vlog about it, this card, and its grading, and it catapults into the mainstream news yet again. Through all of this hype, the trading card game is still hard to get your hands on. Purchasing product in the United States is still incredibly difficult. You now have to fight actual no-lifes that buy product, any product, no matter what they know about it, and just flip it. These people are like Scrooge, letting Tiny Tim die over and over again until maybe about 2023, when market started to kind of correct itself a little bit. But that leads us into our next era. The markets are still in the process of correcting themselves, but right now there are still a lot of the same problems that once riddled Pokemon during the pandemic. There is still an inflation of Pokemon prices and increasing number of scalpers, therefore leading to the discourse between the collectors, the real gamers, and the real investors. Not the scalpers, but real people who like to hang on to product because they see long-term value. Meanwhile, the video games are beginning to stagnate, which is kind of lame. Now, while on one end it's a bad thing that the games aren't doing well, everything else around it is doing amazingly. There's just one major concern for me personally, and many other TCG people who enjoy card games. What about the kids? How are kids supposed to develop nostalgia for the game when everyone else is taking the cards? To that, I honestly have no clue. The recent growth and popularity of Pokemon are the nostalgia-fueled adults who want to be kids again. While it's fun to look at the shiny cardboard, the Pokemon company is currently attempting to figure out ways to snuff out scalpers and appeal to their base again and make it affordable for parents to get this for their kids. The hobby has lived because we all grew up with the shows and games, and even during the lowest of the lows, kids still love Pokemon. It's something we can all relate to and look back on with fond memories. There's no need to take that away from future generations who look forward to going to Target with their parents and sitting at the Pokemon aisle while their parents do the real shopping. Pokemon won't go away, but don't let these influencers dictate the secondary market. People like Logan Paul leech on hobbies, while there are genuinely serious collectors in the world that push for healthy states of the game. On top of this, those same adults ensure not only kids, but include kids into the hobby. Meanwhile, the absolute literal slow bro dumbass goes on Fox News and says these cards are an asset class, claiming that it has outperformed the stock market upwards of 3,000% in the last 20 years. A child may never look at a card again, but allow me to make a clear distinction. Collecting some sealed product and storing it in pristine condition for years is not scalping. Definitely looked down upon, but I'd argue that it's important to have those so that 20 years down the line, you're able to open that, I don't know, what's a good set? Phantasmal Flames Elite Trainer Box or Phantasmal Flames Ultimate Premium Collection many years down the line. Storing it in pristine conditions, totally fine. But it's the malice of quick flipping, abusive tactics towards places such as Target and exploiting the volatile marketplace that I personally have an issue with. Buying an entire Costco pallet and running around retail stores like a madman to resell the product for maybe like a $20 profit immediately is 100% unethical. This behavior is becoming more and more popular in the Western market, causing major strife within the community. A casual pastime becoming the big leagues, where you're now playing against the LeBron and Michael Jordans of scalping in your Pokemon cards to try to just get them for a reasonable price. You are cooked. I'd like to reiterate though that Pokemon is doing some things to fix this, which is a net positive. People should not have to fight over a card game, period. The desperation within the current state of the world is on full display, and it's sad to see the victims being children who just want to pull a Pikachu. Right now, we see market adjustments that are stabilizing the Pokeconomy, but this sudden change has scared so many scalpers off using connections and reselling as a replacement of their job. In the end, this is a kid's hobby. There is no shade being thrown. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. And as a final note, I'll add this. Pokemon is so popular because of people like me who enjoy it. Do I enjoy collecting it as much? No, I mean, I prefer playing the card game, to be honest, way more than collecting it. But regardless, you shouldn't exclude the generation to grow up with it so that they can one day become the collectors. And you can see them going out and maybe they show their kids and so on and so forth and let it be like what it is. It's like a multi-generational IP, but the nostalgia that you feel towards certain cards should be cherished, but it shouldn't be cut off entirely from a new generation enjoying the hobby. The epidemic